Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Friday, the 10th of April. It is Friday. Finally Friday. We finally hit Friday. For those of you, I know you're just dying for the weekend because the weekend is so much different than the rest of the week. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Damien AtHope is here today. He is my guest host, as usual, for Friday. Good morning, Damien. And we've also got Godless Granny. She's joining us on the show again this morning. Hi, Godless Granny. How are you doing?
Hello.
So
it's also Good Friday.
It is. Well, you know, if you ask me, every Friday's a good Friday. I just want to shout out. Go ahead.
This is my first Good Friday as an atheist.
Oh, really? See,
you must be an atheist recently then.
Yeah. I've only been an atheist for about 10 months.
Wow.
That's right. And she not only did she go from being a theist to an atheist, but she went from being a theist to an outspoken content creator anti-theist. I mean,
wow.
Actually, the reason that that's not all that unusual is because when I was a Christian, I was an outspoken, Bible teaching Christian. So I just changed the message.
I see.
Wow.
I see.
I've only been an atheist since 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been there a little longer. Matter of fact, whenever I wrote my book in 2013, I was cruising the interwebs, and Damien was one of the people I saw on there. You know, he was doing, so he'd been doing it. He had been doing that and had a name when I was first writing my book. Good. I want to take a moment to shout out to the chat. Good morning, everybody in the chat. We've got Epileptic Skeptic and Junk Shop Library. Brother John just showed up. Hey, Brother John, how you doing, brother? Kristen is here. Good morning, Kristen. She's been since 83 from birth. She's just a whippersnapper, a young whippersnapper. Paul, good morning, Paul. I think, Paul, I may be working some magic to get a debate going between Paul Kamish and Chris Riedich. So that's going to be fun, hopefully, if I can make that happen. Nerdy Rodent is here. Uri Bench. Lots of people are here this morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. I hope you guys are all ready for the weekend and staying safe. So, thank you for that. And Joy, there's Joy. Did you guys meet Joy? There's Joy. Joy, meet the guys. Guys, meet Joy. Joy's a new watcher. So good morning, everybody, and Uri Bench. I think I say that right. So this morning we've got Damien again, and as our co-host. Now, Damien, for circumstances, he's gonna not co-host for the next, however long. We'll figure that out. So we're gonna find other situation, blah, 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 blah. And we also got Godless Granny, and she's joining us today. Now, she's been on the show before. She's a lot of fun. I watched her video yesterday, and we were talking nerding tech stuff before. All three of us are content creators. All three of us use the same editing software. So,
right. I just started, though.
Yeah. Damien was just as excited to learn you can stretch pictures.
Yeah, I figured that one out about a month ago.
Yep.
Were you copying and pasting them before like I was?
Oh, me? I wasn't even using them because I didn't know how. I didn't even know how to use the Paint 3D, which now I do, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Do you know how to use the sample colors behind your pictures?
Not yet.
Okay, this is important because you'll get a picture that's not the same size as the screen, and you put it on the screen, and it looks kind of awkward because you see some of the screen behind it. If you move it up a line and put a sample color behind it, black makes the picture stand out. I use white sometimes because the picture has white on the edges, and then you can't even tell that the picture was smaller in the first place.
All right.
Yeah, what she means by up a line is up a track, move it up a track, and then just add a solid color below it. And it'll be, I didn't know that either. Remember, you and I were stretching the pictures. And sometimes when you stretch them, it screws up the text. Sometimes it don't. But yeah, so that's.
And it also, sometimes it messes up the proportions of the picture too.
Yep. So we avoid, it's editing stuff. So because my wife, she hates it when I talk nerd stuff on here. So, and she may be watching.
Nerdy Rodent's probably happy.
Nerdy Rodent probably, I need to visit with Nerdy Rodent because he's kind of nerdy. And a rodent. So we might talk about that. But I wanted to ask you before we get too far about how your channel is going and how things are going. I watched, as I mentioned a minute ago, her video yesterday. She's really increasing her production value. This lady, so she already said she has not been an atheist very long. And yet, despite not being an atheist, she's now a content creator, and she's one of those who doesn't just make it this way and stay there. She makes it this way, and then next week she's going to add something and increase her production value and make things better, and she's teaching herself, and I really appreciate that kind of approach.
Well, I thank you, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I went over 160 subscribers yesterday.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I know. And Chris, a lot of it is due to you.
Oh, really?
I really attribute a lot of my success to you, because a lot of the people that have been subscribing to me are people that I have met from watching your show and being involved in the live stream in your show. And I partially figured that out when I went to a live stream of a show that somebody else was doing. I don't remember which show it was, but it was one of the bigger name atheists. And when I said something, Paula Gia said, "Hi, Godless Granny." And just because Paula Gia recognized me, 3 people went and subscribed to my channel. So you're just getting, I discovered that just getting out there and meeting people, makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, that's one of the things that part of my whole channel has been about is you hear the thing, and I got to be honest, I'm getting sick of hearing it. The whole "a rising tide lifts all boats." If I hear that one more time, I'm just going to bang my head on it. But it's
I put
true.
that in my last video.
Yeah, I did. I know. I saw that. I was like, there's another thing too that gets me. Is without further ado. I hate that. I hate hearing without. Everybody does it. I'm not blaming anybody. If you guys do it, that's fine. I'm just saying. I'm like, without further ado. I'm like, really? Do you don't even know what that means? Explain what I'm just. Anyway, I love the concept behind "a rising tide lifts all boats." I really do. It's just when you hear it so often for long, you're like, yeah, it means nothing when you say it but don't act upon it. But a lot of people in our group, like you were talking about, do actually act upon it. Damien here has a similar yet different saying. What was your saying that you used, Damien?
What I say is that we rise by helping each other.
Wow, there you go.
And I try to put that in action. That's that's one of the reasons I wanted to come on Chris's show, was to try to get a lot of my followers to support Chris. And that's also why, I do that in general. I share people's blogs, and I do videos and stuff to try to promote people in this movement, because I believe that we rise by helping each other. Look at the fact that I didn't know that Chris was going to teach me about, editing software. I just felt like I wanted to help and be involved, and then it ended up that we end up, doing a show together that I've been wanting to do for a long time, looking for someone. So yeah, it was just the act of, helping and being involved that brought it all about.
Yeah. I'm growing my channel like a rocket. I'm doing the best. I'm thinking I've got like 855 subscribers this morning when I woke up.
Cool.
I'm hoping to have 1,000 by the middle to the end of next month.
Nice.
That's my plan, because that's the scope I've been growing on, and a lot of that is because of people like Damien. Aaron Ra was on my show. Aaron Ra is like really big. Love you, Aaron, if you're watching, and I know he's not watching, but if you are, but to be honest, it's been smaller channels like the Free Thought Prophets. I've had more subs from the Free Thought Prophets than I did from people watching from Aaron. And then there's also like Eric Murphy and V La Bianca. They are wonderful. Every time I get them on the show, my subscriber count goes up. They're just wonderful people. So yeah, all of us working together. One of the things they'll teach you, though, or at least they say when you watch the videos on how to grow a YouTube channel, is if you want to grow a YouTube channel, find people who do the same thing you are in the same niche and collaborate with them. Be on their show. They have them on your show. I mean, it's just, I watched it when I started the video. I was like, how do you grow a YouTube channel? That's what you do. And thankfully, though, the people in the atheist community have just been wonderful so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm running into now, though, is that there are so many people that have started supporting me, so I want to support them. And so I'm playing videos from so many different people that I want to support. And I'm like, I don't have time to actually watch this anymore. So a lot of times I'm playing them muted. So at least they get the view.
Yeah. But see, that's kind of the deal. There's a lot of it that I don't know. As far as what we're talking about is about content creators, I think you're doing a wonderful job, Godless Granny. You have upped your game. I'm very happy, very proud of what you're doing. And Damien, for those of you who don't know, Damien and I are working on the History Voyagers. Go watch the History Voyagers, our first episode. I'm going to tell you this. We recorded it together. I recorded it and then I brought it home. This is the first time we'd done this. I brought it home.
Yeah.
I did the jump cuts back and forth. Most of them, Damien may have added one or two. And I cut out some of the extraneous talk. And that's it. I gave it to Damien. And his first time, he edited the rest of it. He added all the images. He added all the text. He added the credit at the end. He has just done a fantastic job with our first episode of the History Voyagers. Amber Schofield asked a question to me, actually, besides the Evil God Monster of Abraham series, what would I recommend she use to research the falsehood of God? I don't know. There's a lot of good.
Holy Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Holy Kool-Aid has a lot of stuff on Nothing Fails Like Bible History.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I didn't realize until I started this series how many other people are doing something similar. I think I have a catchy name, the Evil God Monster of Abraham series, but there are other people, it's the God of Hate or the God, Evil God, whatever. There's a lot of people who've done what I'm doing. I just didn't realize.
Yeah, there's actually a website that's been around for a long time, since when I first came, and it's called evilbible.com. And they got a whole bunch of good stuff.
Real quick, Epileptic Skeptic says she thinks her favorite video of you is your video about abortion. And I enjoyed that one too. That was a good one. Of course, me, I was watching the tech part of it.
I actually have 3 videos on abortion. The first 2 are entitled What is a Baby Part 1 and What is a Baby Part 2.
Okay.
And those are directly from Leslie Reagan's book, When Abortion Was Illegal. Yeah. And those 4 focus very much on history and law. Yeah. And then the recent one, it was a response to the AIG. And Paula Gia helped me out with that one. He let me use his clear screen and he gave me a couple audio clips to put in there too.
That is wonderful. You know what you were saying earlier, and I got distracted. I feel the same way about not being able to watch everybody's content. You've got so many friends who make content, and you try to watch them. Sorry to circle back. I got distracted. I want to agree with that. It is hard, isn't it? It's painfully hard. I'll come home. The wife gets home at X time, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson. Sorry. Neil, the 604 Atheist, he'll start his stream just a few minutes later. Yesterday, we had to stop dinner and go in the other room so we could watch. Well, we didn't stop dinner. We hurried through dinner so we could go watch, because it just hits that time to when we try to watch our friends. But it's between running a channel, creating a channel, editing, writing, scripting, promoting, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and now to sit down and try to watch my fellow content creators has just been hell. Sometimes I open it up on the other screen and I'll just I can't hear you, but I'm here, and I'll hit the like button and I'll sit there. Do you do that too?
Yes. And I also know that it helps to leave a comment. And so like Junk Shop Library, he has done a lot to promote me. And so I really want to support him. And so I'll turn on his videos and down in the comments, I'll just put a waving hand because I've got him muted because I'm writing or I'm filming right now, but I'm also playing his videos.
You'll see me, I'll pop in and I'll say, hello all. And I might say in the same sentence, I might say hi to the person running the channel. And that's usually me popping in. I'm just there to support. I may or may not be able to hear. Sometimes I'll tell you, I can't hear you, so don't be talking at me. But yeah, it's just to support those people. Cause man, a lot of times I can't stop what I'm doing and sit there for an hour and a half or 2 hours and watch your whole stream. I just can't do it. I got no time for that. I can't even watch my own shit, but I try to support when I can. So yeah, that's been one of the biggest things. But thankfully, I see other people do it too. Math Pig might pop in and say hi for a minute, and then he's gone. He showed up. He gave me a thumbs down, and he moved on. That's how he rolls. He likes the thumbs down. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. Brainbug says they listened to your premiere last night while walking the dogs. I think I remember seeing that. Yeah, I was in the chat.
Yes,
I saw that in the
chat.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, Paul Kamish has subscribed to you now, and Gary Priestley has subscribed to you now. You're up to 163, I think. Where were you when we started?
161.
So we got a couple more for you there.
Yeah, we got a couple more. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Junk Shop recently had a live stream celebration for his 100th subscriber, and so
Did
Yeah,
he?
I think I'm gonna try. I might try that for when I hit 200, but I've never done a live stream yet, so that's gonna be something new for me.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but once you hit 100 subscribers, you can customize your channel name. So it says YouTube/C/The Daily Atheist. YouTube/C.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So as soon as you hit 100
And
subscribers,
I have 2,600. So
yeah, you could way do it. Yeah. Yeah. So just letting you know, I didn't know if you knew that, Granny, or not, but you can go get.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So it makes it easier to remember. I don't actually use mine. I have one. If I need to go get a link for my channel, I just go get the link and I put it. They both work the same, the normal long one.
Oh,
but yeah.
Okay.
Later,
Yeah,
Brother John.
I did know that was there. I didn't realize that it didn't appear until 100 subscribers. I knew it was there. I went, I didn't realize that was there.
Yep. And then of course
I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. So whenever you get the chance, go do it. It kind of makes it. You'll be Godless Granny on YouTube. Which you already are, of course. But and I watched Junk Shop's videos. Junk Shop's viewers are kind of getting up there. When I first started watching Junk Shop, I don't know how long he's been doing it, but I'd watch his live stream and there'd be like 1 or 2 people there. I think the last time he had 10 or 11. He's really kind of growing in the short time that I've known him. So those numbers don't sound like a lot, but they are when you're used to. This guy, I don't know how many live streams he did to nobody. You know how hard that is? That's work right there, baby. That's work to live stream and not have people to bounce things off of in the chat. And, so that's a tough road to hoe.
One thing that helps, at least I've got my daughter.
Yeah.
If I live stream, at least she'll show up.
Yeah. I think most people probably know your story. Do you want to tell us real quick, briefly about how your daughter helped move you from the faith?
Well, she says that I have this partially wrong, but the way I remember it is, she was working on something for school and she told me that, Noah's Ark really couldn't have happened the way the Bible says, that the methane gas would have killed them if they had all those animals packed into that boat with only one window. And so I went and Googled it and she's right. That doesn't work. And once I looked at that, she showed me a Viced Rhino video, where he was talking more about why Noah's Ark couldn't have happened. And then I went to an Aaron Ra video. And at the time, I couldn't understand Aaron Ra. He was too technical for me. And you have to understand that the last time I took a science class was in 1979. And having been a communications major, and then I went on and got a law degree, science is just something I never even thought about. And so anything scientific that was discovered between 1979 and now, I just had never really paid any attention to. It just wasn't on my radar. And so when I started hearing all these things about how the Christians have everything wrong on evolution, the terminology that they were using was just way above my head. And she also introduced me to Apologia, and Apologia was more my speed. I could understand him. He talks slower. He had Jackson Wheat on, and Jackson Wheat talks slower and was, I could understand that. So it was kind of a stair step. I started with Apologia, and once I could understand what Apologia was saying, then I stepped up to Viced Rhino. And once I understood what Viced Rhino was saying, then I could step up to Aaron Ra. But one of the things that I laugh at is I think I looked up the meaning of the word eukaryote 4 times before I finally could remember what it meant, because it's just not a word I'd never used.
Yeah. Well, again, your switch has been so radical. You've come a long way in a year.
Oh, yeah. And for me, about the story of the boat, I always thought it was funny. It would take magic actually all the way through, because let's just say that everything happened the way they said. If we just for the sake of argument, right? The whole year, the whole entire earth is flooded, because that's what the Bible says, an entire year, which would mean all plant life on the entire planet would be dead. All. That means as soon as the supposed ark stops, everything is now over. It's not over, because no animal that eats plants would be able to have food. They would all die. But before they die, all the predator species would eat all the vegetarian species, because it would need food, and thus eventually they too would die. Everything would die. It's ludicrous. And on top of that, what are the humans going to eat besides eating either meat or vegetables that they don't have? I mean, if you only have 2 of each kind, that's going to go really quick as far as eliminating the animal population, diversity for sure on the earth.
Aaron Ra has a video where he walks into Ken Ham's Ark Encounter, and there's a sign that says, if one part of the Bible is wrong, then it's all wrong. And he stands under it. He says, you set the bar awfully low there.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what did it for me, is because I had always been told the Bible is the complete, inerrant word of God. So once you prove just one point is wrong, the whole thing falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's resources out there that can help with that too. Bibviz.org. I think it's .org. Bibviz.org is a wonderful resource. Let me pull that up and see. I won't be able to show you guys on the screen. I haven't messed with that part of OBS yet. But what is it? Bibviz.org? Bibviz.com. Bibviz.com. Let's see. Here we go. And a 1. And a 2. Did I do it wrong? Hello, Internet. Anyway, Bibviz. It's got all these cool arcs and everything to where, if it says want something in the Bible, here in the Bible it says this. Well, there's a contradictory statement over here. So
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
It must be bibviz.org.
I don't agree with all of theirs, but it is helpful.
Yeah. I like the graphics. Well, there's parts in it where you want to see where some misogyny is. It'll tell you. I don't know. My internet's just having a hard time. Well, I'm streaming, so I'm not going to complain. But if you want to know where there's incest in the Bible, well, it'll tell you go here. If you want to know where there's resources like that I find fascinating. I've seen this image, of the meme of the internet. It shows a Bible and it's got these little like college note tabs in it, and the different colors represent murder, incest, rape, and it's just full of this kind of stuff. It's pretty scary. Let me see if I can find it.
It's supposed a good book.
Yes, you don't want me going off on that, huh?
Oh no, I don't think it's a good book at all.
Uh-oh.
I think someone left.
We lost Granny. There she is.
You just wanted me to be on top. Okay, I understand. I'll go ahead and take the position. You're honoring my leaving for now.
Yes. It's funny because nobody can see that but you guys.
Oh.
Only you two see it that way. Everybody else sees what's coming out on the live stream. All right, Damien's, are you on top now? I can't see you.
Yeah.
I see Damien's on top, so that makes it better. The all is right with the world. So it was just one of those things where Damien's wife is working at home, and it's,
the coronavirus.
Yeah. So
yeah, she can't go to work. I mean, our state's been locked down for I think it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
So it's not that he doesn't love us. It's just that with his wife working at home and they got a small zone, it makes it difficult for them. So starting next week, he will just sporadically as we can, I'm sure.
I have a daughter that's a pediatric ID doctor. And so she has recommended that my husband and I not leave the house at all. And so we haven't been. And so if we need anything, my youngest has to go get it for us.
Oh, really? Wow. We have a quarantine set up downstairs. I say quarantine. It's just a gate so she can come into the house and the dogs can't get to her. And she can turn left and go right into the shower, take off her clothes, throw them in the washer, and jump in the shower before she enters the house proper. We set that up on the 5-year anniversary day of the day we met. I set up a quarantine for my wife.
And yes, it has everything to do with that.
Just, things you remember.
She has to get clean.
Yeah. You know what I was doing when our 5th year anniversary? Well, actually, yeah. We got married on the 4th of July. So that's the anniversary of the day we met, not our anniversary proper.
What a celebration.
Well, the whole country celebrates with us.
Yeah, I see that.
What the deal was is my wife's favorite numbers are 4 and 7, 4th of July. Okay. And
that's also my grandson's birthday.
There you go. See? And so that's no, but I'm not a real big patriot. I think the people on the right have taken patriotism and made it ugly. So so whenever people are like, "Oh wow, you got married on the 4th of July, you must be really patriotic." No, my wife's favorite numbers are here. And that's the extent of it. But again, the whole country sets off fireworks for our anniversary, so makes it nice. Blastopore becomes the anus, while the protostomes these are big words. Don't hit me with big words. It's freaking 6 o'clock in the morning. What's going on over here in the chat? Wes, what are you talking about? Are you copying stuff straight from Google or what, brother? Oh, butt
I
mouse.
don't see the chat. Is that supposed to be like that?
Yeah. You are unworthy. Okay. As I kind of explained earlier with the live streaming, you're over here on one program. There's no chat going to that program.
Okay, got
StreamYards. I'm actually streaming out through. So if you want to see the chat, you open up YouTube and you watch the video, and you see that's how they do it. But you got to remember to. I know I'm a hopeless romantic. This is no time for romance. I don't remember what I said now. The right has managed to conflate patriotism with nationalism. Yeah,
definitely.
And it's just uber. These people, oddly enough, the people who wave the flags all the time are the ones who are more likely to be tricked by, or less likely to be actual patriots. It's more about their party, their blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I don't want to go there. I'm a jerk.
I was really angry at the reaction to Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem.
Right.
So I'm thinking, that's exactly what this country stands for, is the right to express yourself. And for them to say that that's unpatriotic, no, it's not. That's very patriotic.
Well, matter of fact, I thought taking a knee was a sign of respect.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. It's his skin color is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
also the issue. The issue was police violence. So that's another issue that people that feel like America's great, and the police are doing wonderful, and
police violence against people of color. I think.
Well, yeah,
specifically. Yeah, specifically. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, police violence against people of color. That's what I meant. They don't want people on the right, feel like you need to support police no matter what. They can kill 10,000 people. Well, who cares? They're still police.
But those same jackasses will say, yeah, let them come try to get my guns. I'll shoot them bastards down. Who are they going to shoot down?
The police.
The damn police. Yeah.
I know.
So
Make no sense.
What a bunch of idiots, I mean, yeah. I have a low tolerance.
Always protect and to support the military. Yeah, unless the military comes to their compound, and then they'll, like you said, say, "I'll kill the military."
That's right. And you've seen those memes. It shows this horribly out of shape person with a gun and a camouflage jacket going, "Yeah, I'll take on the U.S. Army." And then there's this picture of this U.S. Army people going, "All right." It's not like it used to be. If that were to happen and we had an insurrection on our own land, they would use drones. They would kill them with drones. They would never see the person. I have a friend who down in Texas, I used to work with him. He collected guns. He's got 3 or 4 or 5 AR-15s and stuff like that. And he's got thousands and thousands of rounds. And he used to talk about when the Obamites were going to come over the hill to get his guns, he'd be able to defend himself. And I'm like, and of course, now we know there's no way it'd be Obamites come over. He'd be shooting at the sheriff.
Yeah.
So, we've heard there's this guy stockpiling weapons, and now you're going to have the sheriff and FBI hopping around his location, and that's who he's going to be shooting at. Is that a hero? Are you a freaking hero for shooting the FBI and the sheriff? Well, if you listen to Trump, because the FBI is bad because they're investigating Trump, right? You see this kind of shit that goes on there? I'm getting distracted. Best name ever. Kristen says, I don't view America as free, or at least not all states. Have you ever seen the episode of Top Gear where they visit red states? I've never seen Top Gear at all. Not once. I think I know what it's about. It's about the guy with the white helmet. He's like anonymous. Is that right? And he rides cars, does cars.
We are moving more and more toward a police state.
Fascism.
We keep glorifying SWAT teams and, people, the police being in full combat gear. And when we do, we're moving more and more toward a police state.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just the fact that it's a police state, because let's just say there's a military here to protect us. That's not inherently a bad thing. The problem is the Supreme Court has decided that police do not have to, in a sense, protect us. That they don't protect and serve. That's not really what they do. What they do is enforce laws. That's really what they do. And so if it was they're here to protect us, well, then I would be a lot more in favor of it. But it's not. They're really here to enforce laws, and a lot of the laws we know are unjust laws, or they're distributed in a sense in a way that's not equal.
They're enforced unequally.
Right. Yeah, enforced unequally. So it's another problem.
Yeah, we also have the current government. The Trump and his ilk have been changing the laws and doing things and getting the court stacked in certain directions, and we are turning into a literal fascist state. And I was worried that this coming election they may try to cancel or postpone this election or whatever, and then just ride on that because of the virus. So I'm hoping we'll get the virus under control before they can use that as an excuse. Wouldn't surprise me to see that as an excuse. I have predicted that Trump, that we lost. When we lost the last election with Obama, that was it. It's done. It's over. The next election, we will lose to Trump. It doesn't matter who got elected. It didn't matter if it was Bernie or Warren or Biden. It doesn't matter because it's so rigged. It's so gerrymandered. We've got this ancient voting system, and who wants to keep it ancient? The conservatives, right?
Yeah.
And if there's something wrong with that ancient system to where it gets compromised and the conservatives get elected, are they going to investigate that? If there's a person in charge of investigating that, would it surprise you for them to replace that person? Not at all. If our election got compromised and Donald Trump was illegally elected, they would replace the guy in charge of investigating it. That's just how they've been working. So we lost. It's freaking over. I mean, I will be surprised and I will eat my hat or eat crow or whatever if after this election, if Biden wins. Then we have the next election in 4 more years. By that time, they'll have enough power in Congress and the Senate, if my evil predictions are right, and I don't want them to be right, but they'll have enough in there to overturn, I don't remember exactly which one it is, but they'll make it to where Trump can be in office again. Yeah, that's where we're headed.
They'd have to change the Constitution.
Absolutely, yes, they would. They're called the constitutional amendments, and all you need is control in both House and Senate, and you can start working on constitutional amendments.
But you also need ratification
and with enough corruption, you can get that. Look what they've done already. Look where they've been.
You need
already.
a vote in every state. It takes years to do.
Well, let's see. Only if. When you can change the rules, so that's the way it used to be. But now we can change the rules to where you don't have to do it that way. That's what I'm saying. Just watch. We'll see. I know it sounds ugly, but we didn't think that he would get into office, right? We did. As he's going into election, it's exposed that he raw dogged a porn star 4 months after his child was born, but he still got elected. How'd that happen? Mm-hmm. And then we found out that he actually paid for that through his attorney with campaign funds. How did he stay elected? How did he not get? It's corruption. And the longer he's in there, the more corrupt it gets. They finally got an impeachment despite all the evidence. The conservatives, all corrupt, all wasted, managed to bury the evidence. They didn't have evidence shown. They didn't have witnesses come forward. Blah, 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 blah. Trump got off. That's it. We're done. It's it. Now he's trying to stack. What happens if RGB does?
Yeah.
But that's what to me is the issue is that no matter what the Constitution says, we think the Supreme Court can interpret it however they want. So the Supreme Court can go, well, it used to say that Trump couldn't be president forever, but really under certain circumstances, they can just decide whatever they want. Once they own the court, they own the law, because the law doesn't matter because it's about interpretation.
But you can't bring a case to court until something happens. They would have to elect him when he's unelectable to even bring the case before the court. And that's why it takes years to do that.
How is he electable now? He's an impeached president.
Well, I know. So was Clinton.
Well, Clinton didn't run for an extra term after that. That was the end of his term. Mm-hmm. And they impeached him for a lie and a blowjob. A lot of the same conservatives that are on there now. Lindsey Graham was part of that. And yet, where's Lindsey Graham now? Right. You remember when Trump was running and Lindsey Graham was running against him, and he would snarl and he'd talk about Trump and Trump and Trump. And then all of a sudden that he flipped and he's got orange all over his face from kissing Trump's ass. Right? I mean, it just flipped. I think they've got a lot of something on him. And like grumpy old dude here says, he says you need 2/3 of the Congress to ratify a new amendment. That's what I'm talking about. I qualified that statement by saying
states.
Once he
not
gets
just Congress, but the states.
No. Once you go in and you change the Constitution to where it no longer says you have to have, you ratify, you amend the Constitution where it says you no longer need the state's approval.
But you need the states to approve that change.
Well, all right. So I don't think so. I disagree. That's what I'm saying. They go above that and they change that rule to where you no longer need that rule. That's how they've been operating throughout this whole time.
But what I'm saying is that rule is in the Constitution. So to change it, you have to go through the constitutional process.
All they need to do is continue to corrupt the rest of our politicians. It's not like they haven't already done it. The entire conservative party is gone. So I just don't think it'd be that far. I want to be wrong. I want you to be right. They can't do it. They can't. But,
Well, you mean the conservative party that used to actually care about America?
No, that conservative party is dead. I'm talking about the conservative.
I agree. No, that's what I'm saying. You're saying that when you say conservative party, there's still a conservative party. It's just no longer one that really is American, that really cares about America. And look, they support all kinds of corruption. They support, Russia. They used to hate Russia. I mean, they used to go down in flames. I remember even a pastor of the church I was at when I was a kid got a machine gun done fully auto so that he could protect against the Russians. And now it's like a total, because of Trump, and there's a total flip. And all of a sudden, Russia's our friend. I mean, it's bizarre.
And to watch Trump suck up to Vladimir Putin and all these dictators and then trash talk all the leaders of the free world over these years, I mean, it's ridiculous.
The real challenge is to convince the masses of the poor conservatives that the rich conservatives are not with them.
Right. Yeah, that would, I would like to think, actually they used to be, I thought, but then that all changed.
They did used to be, but they aren't anymore. Yeah. Because I used to be one of them, and I felt like the Republican Party had abandoned me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So now I'm a Democrat.
I don't get it. I have a friend who's mostly conservative, but yet he thinks that poor people should be taken care of. And this right here is very, very confused on his side because of the way things have been. I say he's confused. He's probably quite confident in how he feels about things. But how can poor
conservatives think that the government shouldn't be taking care of the poor, that the churches and the charities should be taking care of the poor?
And that's wrong. That's wrong. Churches have almost no interest in taking care of the poor. I say you have good people out there who want to help, so they join the church in the effort to help. But the church, have anybody here ever been to a thing where the church is giving out food to the poor and required that the poor either pray with them first or something before they got the food,
or listen to a message,
right? So they're more about gathering their flock.
I've experienced it because I've been poor before and got food from a church before, more than one time, and from a food bank. I mean, I've not been raised in money and not a person of wealth, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. And they absolutely, let me pray for Jesus, and to me they should the food bank's a lot better. You can just go there and get food. I mean, they give you a box, and I remember the first time I went, they gave me this huge birthday cake and stuff, and it was amazing because back then, it felt so good just to get stuff, and I feel like there's such a vulnerable place, and then you have the church, forcing you to do religion, to get stuff. It's really a serious, disgusting manipulation. They know you're in a desperate position, and they're taking advantage of it. They're not doing it out of care. They're doing it to proselytize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, there's just so many things going on that are contrary to their own interest. Kristen mentioned that I don't understand how poor people can be Republican. Me either. I don't get it. But some of the poorest people I know are Republican. They're conservative. They hate the stinking liberals. I don't get it. I have a friend who gets public health care, who gets public assistance, who gets education from his school. He gets all these things that he would not get if the conservatives had full control and power, and they would pull that away from him. He knows this and yet would still vote for them. And I don't understand that at all. Abortion
is the number one thing. Abortion is the one controlling issue that keeps all of the right-wing people in line with the Republican Party.
Right. Also, real quick, Grumpy Old Dude says that he's seen them turn away LGBTQ people. I think he's talking about like food banks and stuff, churches. They'll turn them away.
Really?
Yeah. I believe that's,
wow.
I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah. What did you say before that, Miss Granny?
I said that abortion is the controlling issue.
Okay. So look, I'm glad you said that. Thank you for reminding me. And the reason why is because I'm a very opinionated person on parts of this. Remember, before the conversation, I mentioned that abortion doesn't really have anything to do with me. I support the women's rights, blah, 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 blah. That's topic. Let's set that aside. The other side of abortion is this. Why do they not support abortion? Why do they not support I'm going to talk about the people on the right, the white Christian right-wing people. White. I said white. Because I say this because they force minorities to have babies who will then go on to vote against them. It does not make sense. You know, the right Christians on the right, they're sitting there like, you can't have birth control. You can't have abortions. We have a population explosion of poor people. A poor Hispanic or black or people of color, and these people vote against them. It just doesn't make sense. You would think they would be actually encouraging them to have birth control.
This was the most shocking thing I found when I started looking into my research on the history of abortion. And that is that most of the Protestant churches were actually in favor of abortion even after Roe v. Wade. And the thing that changed it was politics. In 1979, when they wanted Jimmy Carter voted out of office, they needed a unifying issue, and abortion was the issue that they picked. And they got Falwell and the whole moral majority to declare that abortion was murder, and we needed to get anyone that was in favor of murder out of office. And that's been their number one issue ever since.
Yeah, but their Bible doesn't support that.
No, it doesn't.
Support that at all.
And most people don't realize that. And here's something I'm working on right now. And if anybody has a copy of a Bible that was written before 1875, I need it. Tell me where I can get one. Because one of the things that just popped in my head as I was writing the script for my last video was the verse in Luke chapter 1, it's verse 36, says Elizabeth was in her 6th month. And we've always just kind of accepted that, you know, the Bible was telling us that Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant. And then I started going, wait a minute. People didn't know that pregnancy lasted 9 months when the Bible was written. And it wasn't until 1875 that we even knew what conception was. And before that, everyone thought that pregnancy began at quickening. And so people thought that gestation was only like 3 months long. So how could Elizabeth be in her 6th month? And I looked up a literal translation of that verse, and that's not what it says at all. So I'm really curious as to what that verse looked like before 1875.
Well, if you go to Wikipedia about abortion, you can see that the church's position on abortion has changed from the beginning. I think it even starts at like then it was 300 or 600 AD, and it starts talking about different church fathers pro-abortion or against abortion. It's always been before, in the ancient times, always been in a sense a thing that was both sides. So the church had two positions. Like now it's only like one position. It's like you said, it's all anti-abortion, but that is not the historical
process. There was an association of Baptist ministers in Illinois that used to pay for women from Illinois to go out of state to get abortions.
Yeah, but they don't like history. They like their fantasy stuff. And even they're supposed that they care about life. I care about life. Yeah, you only care about birth because you certainly don't care about life. Because as soon as a child is born, you could care less.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want to, support, programs for the needy. They don't want to for a child. They don't want to make sure the child has a lunch. They don't want to make sure the child has, good schooling, or can we give them free college? They don't want anything that supports the life. They just want the life itself.
You know, we've learned from the $5 trillion that they have dumped into our economy over the past month and a half, $5 trillion, that they could have ended world hunger anytime they wanted to. They could have ended all these problems we're talking about anytime they wanted to. Sorry, I had to go there because we were talking about that thing.
Yeah. Somebody had suggested a question to me, which I posed to someone on Twitter when I got into an argument on abortion, was if you have a test tube with 100 embryos in it in one hand and an 18-month-old baby in the other hand, and you can only save one, which one would you save? And the guy I was talking to said, well, yeah, I'd save the test tube. At that point, I said, you obviously don't care about people. Conversation over. And
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, even in the test tube, there's still no guarantee it would become a people.
Well,
there's no guarantee.
And right. And even if you tried to implant all of them, 90% of them at best, I mean, at worst, are going to die, and most likely 100%.
I was reading the chat. So if you said, I thought that was one embryo and one baby. I'm sorry. If you said there was a whole bunch of embryos, I missed that.
Yeah, it was a test tube with 100 embryos versus a baby.
Yeah, but that's still, I mean, that doesn't matter. That's, read Numbers 5 to Bible stance on abortion. Brainbug mentioned this. There's several different places in the Bible where you can get different, I guess, views on abortion. Like somewhere it says the baby isn't real, isn't a person until it takes its first breath.
Correct.
That's the Jewish position. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, the Christians interpret the Old Testament very differently than the Jewish people do.
Yes, because it's not like the Jewish people know anything about that. Yeah, I know, right? But then there's other places in there where God does abortions. God kills unborn children. God kills born children. God commands the killing of children. God's people sing about the killing of children.
Yeah. There's one where I can't remember who's doing it, but they have a song, like you said, or they have a thing where they smash the baby's heads against the rock or something, and the pleasure of the sound or something like that.
Yeah. Psalms 126, I think, is something like that. Yeah. But that's what I was talking about. That's the song where I believe it's the Israelites have been done wrong. And he's talking about get your revenge. Go happy is he who takes the babies. We always quote it out of context because we say, he just says, happy is he who takes the babies and smashes them against the rocks. But what they're talking about is the people who've smashed your babies against the rocks, go smash their babies, I think is more about what it's aligned. There's not a lot of love and forgiveness there. And why would you go smash somebody else's baby rather than smash them? Go smash them if they smashed your baby. Don't go smash their baby. But throughout the Bible, God tells people, go in there. These are bad people. We understand what bad people are, right? Let's pretend we're the good guys. There's bad people living in that town. Go kill them, but don't kill their kids. Don't murder. Don't kill their dog. What kind of sick animal are you? But that's not the God of the Old Testament. Save the virgin daughters as sex slaves and murder all the male children. That's the God of the Old Testament.
Oh yeah,
fun for the whole family.
Well, and Jesus came down and didn't say that any of that was wrong.
No,
not one time did he ever say anything in the Bible was wrong.
Yeah, no.
So when Christians go, well, I follow Jesus. Well, Jesus followed the Bible, so you can't deny any part of the Bible or say, oh, it was taken out of context.
Right.
Any part of the Old Testament was there for Jesus, and so Jesus could have. Because it was I think it was done like 500 years before Jesus' birth is when supposedly that most of the Bible had been, the Old Testament had been put together, so he knew, and yet he had nothing to say negative at all. So any negative they say, well, that doesn't matter. That was wrong. Really? Mm-hmm. Jesus didn't think so.
But Jesus was a Jew, right? Jesus was a practicing Jew, was he not? Didn't Jesus say, I didn't come to destroy the law, I come to fulfill them. Not one jot and tittle, right? So why don't Christians celebrate Passover the same way Jews do?
Because Passover has been fulfilled.
Well, I know, but that's what he said that he wasn't going to change. That's what we just kind of covered, right? Passover, all these other ones, Passover was for what? Passover was created in Egypt because of the Jews that were enslaved. It had nothing to do with Adam and Eve. Am I wrong?
Well, same with the cutting off the foreskin. The foreskin that supposedly is a covenant between man and God.
That's Old Testament.
Right. But the Old Testament's the same book.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. Well, Jesus and God are not the same person. Clearly, there are those of the,
I agree with that.
Yeah, the Christians. They're just so. Yeah, she says, "What happens to the Trinity?" You know, that's. Oh man, did y'all notice my fancy glasses? I broke my glasses yesterday, so I'm wearing my wife's puppy dog glasses. Anyway, so the differences between these two, God is everywhere. Everywhere. He's everywhere all the time. God is in these pair of nail clippers. Jesus is the face of God. But man, I tell you, that's a bunch of crap. When you go read the differences between this, what Jesus teaches or allegedly teaches, and what happens in the Old Testament, it's completely different. There's no way these are two of the same people. I mean, and to see Christians roll over and say, well, yeah, no, Jesus, I had a debate with a Christian just after I started the live stream. I had a debate with a Christian, and that was one of the things I hit him with. I was like, listen, if you're going to say Jesus and God are the same thing, then Jesus killed babies. Jesus killed babies because God in the Old Testament kills babies. And if Jesus and God are the same person, then who killed those babies? Say it with me now. Jesus killed babies. You picking up what I'm putting down? But this guy I was debating was like, yep. Jesus killed babies. And once they do go there, you've just lost your whole argument. I mean, they've lost, but you know what I mean? They don't know that they've lost. Yep, Jesus killed babies. What do you say then?
I know. I heard someone tell me one time that because God owns us, God can do what he wants. So that
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Well, then there's no moral at all. If God has no moral standard at all, then he's amoral, meaning that he does not have morals.
Right. Well, God lays out the morals, and yet he says not to kill and turns around and kills. He says not to do this and turns around and does that. He lies, he cheats. It's jealous, Yeah. So, if that's the deal, then, matter of fact, the same guy who I just mentioned, he's all against murder, of course. One of the ways he justified some of the murder in the Bible was by saying that the people God killed were not pure humans. They were descendants of...
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, they were descendants of like the Nephilim or the sons of God who bred with women, because they are not the same. I don't think they could be the same. Depends on interpretation. But you know what I'm saying? So he believes it, and that makes it okay. It makes it okay to murder, death, kill something because it's not a pure human. Well, let me ask you then, if that's the way you're going to go, where does that line end? Are black people real humans? Wait, I thought black people are, Jewish people. Jewish is a religion. It's not a skin color.
But what I mean is, that was Hitler's whole reasoning, was that the Jews aren't real people. They're just rats.
There you go.
So it's okay to kill them.
There you go. Same notion. Yeah, they're not real people. So where does that end for modern Christians? So it was okay to kill these people in the Bible because they were not pure humans.
That's
so
one
what's
of the
a pure
problems
human?
I have with, people use the parable of the Good Samaritan to say that Jesus says that you should love everybody, but actually it doesn't. It's only, you're only supposed to love believers, because even though the Samaritans were the hated group, they were still Jews.
Yeah. Well, there's also
just Jews that worshipped in a different place.
Right. Well, there's also the other thing where Jesus says, for anybody who comes to me shall, what's it go? For John 3:16, for he so loved the earth that he gave his only begotten son. And so
whosoever should.
So wait. So, yeah. So they're like, he gave his son to save you, to save the world. And that's the way they say it. But if you keep reading, it says, so that those who believe in him shall be saved. It doesn't say everybody shall be saved. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, so that those who believe in him. Right? Am I wrong?
There's where you get a huge divide between Arminians and Calvinists, because the Calvinists say that Jesus only died for those who were going to believe. He only died for the chosen. He didn't die for those that were not the chosen. Whereas the Arminians say he died for everyone, and everyone has the ability to choose him.
Right. See, so thank you, Gary. See, but just like we just said, it's specifically in this Bible says, so that those who believe in him. It doesn't say
It was
everybody.
funny. Yeah.
And I don't think anywhere in the Bible does Jesus say he loves us. That's another one I really like.
Well, he definitely doesn't say, because even like when the parable with him and the Canaanite woman who has the sick female daughter, supposedly possessed with demons, Jesus doesn't want to heal her. And he says, that I've come for the children of Israel. Right. I mean, he flat out says, I'm not for everyone, period. I mean, anyone who can heal a child and chooses not to is not a good person in my book, period.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I mean, it automatically. And the thing about the Nephilim is interesting. I heard someone say that supposedly the flood was to kill all the Nephilim. But there's a problem with that, because the Bible, then there's another verse that mentions the Nephilim were still existing after the flood.
Well, it says that the sons of God came down and the Nephilim were there. And it says the Nephilim were there during and after the sons of God. And then we're to understand that the sons of God were wiped out by the flood. If that's the case, it specifically says the Nephilim, since it says they were there before and after the sons of God, that means they're not the sons of God. For one, they're not the children of sons of God because they were there before. And then they didn't die in the flood because they were there after. And if the sons of God died in the flood, then they were out.
It's just funny. I mean, how else? Supposedly there's only one boat. How else are the Nephilim having their own boat? They have their own ark. I mean, how exactly did they, if there was a world flood as the Bible story, how exactly did they live before and after, and yet they weren't with Noah on the ark?
Yeah, it's powerful breaststroke going on there.
Swimming for a year without food.
Well, see, this is what it says here. Gary Priestley says, the Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men before the deluge. I've heard that too, but I just did a series on it, and it said that they were here before the sun, or during the sons of God and after they left. And it also says that the Nephilim were nobles of men, or the great heroes of old, or something like that. It doesn't ever say, I believe, that they are specifically the children of the sons of God and the daughters of men. But then again, that raises the other question. Are they the same kind? If they're the same kind, then they can breed, and the sons of God are the same thing as men. If they can't breed...
The whole thing is just a bunch of fantasy land. But you can definitely find contradictions. So it probably says both, because the Bible is fond of doing just that. Like, there's a bunch of verses where it says, like, what did Jesus say, when he died on the cross? And if you look at the 3 different gospels, every one of them are something different. I mean, the Bible is got the down when it comes to contradictions.
Oh yeah. It's got the, well, of course, it's so many different books written by so many different people for blah 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 blah. Apparently, they all didn't read the previous chapters, or they didn't read them correctly. Paul Camish says, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." That's a great quote of Jesus.
John Piper had that on his Twitter page this morning.
Really?
And I responded with, so you want people to disavow their families?
Right. Yeah. So much for that love and peace.
Yeah.
Well, and there's another point I tend to hammer a lot is the first murder in the Bible was Cain murdering Abel for the love of God. And then ever since then, the descendants, the believers of this God, have murdered each other and murdered each other and murdered each other. But not Jesus, right? Jesus he's all about love. For I bring peace upon the earth.
No, right? I came to bring the sword.
That's right. Yeah. They don't listen to those things. So, all right, bad example. I used a bad example. I took it out of concert. Let me use another Jesus quote. Let me find it here. Whoever loves father or mother more than me, right? We just covered that. That's literally telling you to hate your family if you want to go to Jesus.
Well, I don't know what reading you're having of the verse, but there's a verse that says, if you do not hate your mother and father, your son and daughter, your very own life, thus such a person cannot be my disciple.
I think it's the same thing.
It says hate. It says the word hate. I guess it probably depends on who's trying to translate it sound nicer.
I want to mention real quick, Granny, that there are, I'm sure you've been there. You probably know this. You were looking for a dated version of the Bible. You may be able to find it on BibleGateway.com. They've got a lot of different translations.
That's mostly what I use.
Okay,
yeah, but I'm looking there. I have my grandfather's Bible, and I looked in there, but even that was copyrighted 1966, so it wasn't even close to old enough.
Right.
Well, I don't know about old enough, but I have a link where this person goes through the Jewish, the Old Testament, and every single verse it shows what the original was, actual wording. It just translates it directly, and then later it shows, like how Christians do it. But it gives you, so like when they say "spare the rod, spoil the child," which is actually not in the Bible anywhere. But when that kind of a concept about using a rod, the rod actually was like a club. It's like a long stick with a knob on the end. That's why people that are in a sense back then, like a walking cane sort of idea, like it says my rod and my staff. So it's saying will comfort me. So these are two things that are in a sense not like trivial. They're things of power. And so that's why it talks about beating your slave. I believe they're beating them with the rod. And
but the rod could only be so thick, right? About as thick as your thumb.
Yeah, it's not super. Yeah, it's not super. Yeah. It's a thin, like walking kind of cane, or almost like a size of a broomstick, but it has like a knob on the end. It's about the size of probably like a baseball, hardball. So I'm just saying is that they try to say, oh well, it's just a light paddle. No, they're beating people with the club. Basically, it's just a long, thin one. But I mean, when you go read the actual verse, it says club. So it doesn't. When they say rod, they're trying to minimize how bad it sounds.
Amber Schofield wanted to say that I think she's talking about the Nephilim were probably waterproof. I think they used Scotchgard or something. That was probably they floated.
Magic, always.
And Ed says, don't forget the scripture that says to honor thy father and thy mother. So there's not a contradiction there. That's different though.
That says that the only where the Ten Commandments gives a punishment is about children. It doesn't really punish about murder. It says don't murder, but only where children says honor thy father and mother, or I will punish you to it was like third or fourth generation.
Third and fourth generation. Yep.
Yeah. So, but why doesn't it say that about murder? I mean, dishonoring your mother and father is worse than murder?
Because it's the god of death.
It's worshiping other gods, worshiping idols that you punish to the third and fourth generation.
No, children. If children don't honor their mother and father, then they're the ones punished. Nothing else. No other part of the Ten Commandments lists that you're going to get an actual punishment in that way. I mean, I agree. If they were, being logical, they would do it for the worst sins. Also, they would number them. Why is murder, I think, number 4 or 5? I mean, it's not the first, not even the second. It's way down. Even how it's listed is not.
The first 4 are all about your relationship with God, and 5 is your relationship with your family. And even 5, all of those are aimed at keeping you in the religion. All of those are aimed at making sure that you are worshiping God and you're teaching your kids to worship God. Because by their view, that is far more important than anything you do with another person.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying in reality, though, that's not in a sense a good moral list, because a moral list should start. I mean, you should start. Why isn't rape on there? I mean,
right.
Certainly, that's a harm to persons that happens all the time, or
because boiling your goat in its mother's milk is far worse.
That was a different set of 10 Commandments, by the way.
10 Commandments, yeah, I know. There's more than one set.
A longer version.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's not a longer version.
It's not. It's
number 10. In Moses got the first 10 Commandments and he smashed them, and he goes back up the mountain and gets a second 10 Commandments. And then in another book, he relates the story of getting the 10 Commandments. And when he relates the story, he has a third set of 10. So the 10 vary from those 3 different places in Scripture where they're put out.
Right. Well, there's also there's one where they do 10, and that's just the 10. But there's also where they do, it's like 618 or 613. Right. So here's the deal for those who don't know. In the version I'm talking about, I believe it's the one everybody practically knows. The people, God is on a mountain in the form of a cloud, and Moses brings the people of Israel up to the mountain so they can hear the voice of God. And God goes, this is commandment 1, boom, commandment 2. And he gets to 10, and the people are so scared by the sound of his voice that they back away from the mountain. And that's all that happens. The narrative says, number 10, The people were scared of the voice and backed away from the mountain. Number 11, number 12, number 13, number 14. And it just keeps on going. But we stop at 10 because they, it's like that's where a break is. And they stop at 10. And that's the Decalogue that we have. But there's hundreds. And one of them even says, if you find somebody who worships a God other than me, you're supposed to destroy him. I mean, that's one of those. So there's a whole bunch of these.
Oh, there's a verse that says that if your wife whom you love or your son or your daughter entices you to worship a different God, you should stone them. And you should you should gather the whole village together to stone them, and you should throw the first stone yourself personally.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And what do? Aren't you supposed to, if your kid disrespects you or whatever, you're supposed to drag them down to the city elders?
To the elders,
stone them,
Stone them to death. Yep.
Stone them to death. That's a lot of weed to smoke. I'm just saying. Gonna pass on boiled goat. Yeah, the boiled goat. But I don't know about a boiled goat, but God did love the smell of burning flesh. And that it's not the boiled goat is a problem. It's you're not supposed to boil a kid in the milk of its own mother.
Its mother. Yeah, I said that wrong.
No, I wouldn't hold you. There's somebody in the chat mentioning it. I didn't realize you had said it wrong. You're a bad person. You know where you're going.
I just said goat instead of kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too, kid. Yeah.
It makes me think of, I wonder what that tastes like to boil
a goat in milk.
Yeah.
God loves a good barbecue.
That tastes good. Like, that tastes good. You can't have that. No.
Well, we were talking about Noah and the animals. Okay, so a lot of people do the whole two animals and two animals, but actually it was seven
of the clean animals.
Of the clean animals, and then 2 of unclean animals. So there was 7. I'm sorry.
I went through trying to do some math the other day because I found an AIG article where they were saying that because they only had 1 of each kind of animal, not each species, that they said that there were only 3,600 animals 6,700 animals on the ark. And that's why Noah could have all of the animals, because there were only 6,700 of them. And so I said, okay, now if we divide that by 2, for 2 of each kind, and then subtract 5 for each of the clean animals, although actually I made a mistake even there, because I went and found another AIG article where they said that they believed that there were 7 pairs of each clean animal. So you have to subtract even more than that, although how many of those were clean animals, we really don't know. So I was estimating there could only have been about 3,000 species represented on the ark.
Tops.
And I said, since we now have 9 million species on the planet, what's the evolution rate? And I did some division and said, that means we're evolving 6 species of animals every day. And I said, somebody check my math. And I sent this to somebody called MathBlade. And I said, am I doing this right? And he said, no, you're not, because what you missed was that, the first species divides and they can divide. And so actually what you get is a multiplication rather than a linear progression. Right, and he says there's also so many variables in there that, it's an impossible mathematical equation. But it was interesting to think about.
Yeah. Well, there's just so much going on in that story that is just wrong. It's just crazy wrong. And then afterwards, well, the reason why I brought it back up was because you were talking about what happens, what do they do? Well, to be honest, so now we've established how many animals they had on the boat, but that's not how many animals that survived and began to proliferate upon the earth. And the reason why is because as soon as they landed, the first thing he did is let them out and sacrifice some animals to God. So my understanding is you don't eat them, you kill them, you burn them, you throw it away. So that's just wasted meat, by the way. That's just waste.
Actually, they were allowed to eat them.
I've never heard that. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because this was also, it was like the following chapter, in chapter, let's say 5, they get off the boat, and then they do their sacrifice. In chapter 6, it tells them they're allowed to start eating animals.
Yeah.
So they didn't. They didn't eat them. They just killed them and wasted them. If you go by that logic, right? I'm not arguing you. I'm arguing the thing. I'm sure they probably
more that the priests eat them, but that you're right. That comes much later.
Yeah, according to the story, it tells them, now you're able to eat meat. So, and the poor unicorn.
Well, just to say that nothing is unclean, or something like that. That Even Jesus says that what goes in your mouth is not unclean; it's what comes out of it.
He's never seen some of the porn movies I've seen. I have now said, I'm sorry. I'm a bad Chris. Yes, Jesus and porn. Nothing like Jesus and porn to spark up the day. But one of the things, I'd never heard that. Or I don't remember ever hearing that, Damien, that they had, that it made it unclean, or it was not unclean.
Yeah,
it's in the New Testament.
Well, no, the Old Testament actually first says that nothing, I can't remember now the verse, but because the reason I know this because I argue with the Molokin. He's a Russian Christian who believes that during the ark that they just drank milk, so they're like milk drinkers, and they think that certain things are unclean and clean, and so he wouldn't eat certain foods. And I told him that's not biblical, though. I mean, where are you getting this? Well, in part of our church, I'm like, yeah, but is that the Bible? Because if you look at the Bible, you have first the Old Testament where God is talking, and then you have Jesus also, in a sense, saying the same thing. No, there's not unclean stuff. So it's this middle part where these laws happen, that you're supposed to not eat certain things and whatever, like shellfish, but it doesn't. That's not before that. It doesn't say that. That when I think I said Noah or something. I can't remember now, but I showed him. But there's definitely a verse where it says that that nothing is unclean, and then Jesus says nothing goes in your mouth is unclean. So once I showed him that, he didn't quit being a Christian, but he actually stopped really following. He ate pork for the first time.
Interesting.
Well, because he had never eaten pork. He was like about 48 or something.
Really?
He never ate pork his entire life because of his religion. But I really rocked his world because I showed him these verses, and he's like, yeah.
Well, Native Atheist here mentions that there's also an argument that there was nothing but egg cells and sperm on the ark. I would argue that the story of the ark, I appreciate that. I've heard that. First of all, it would be really nasty. But second of all, can you imagine the smell? No, the deal is, though, in the Bible, and I just did a series, I'm doing the Evil God Monster of Abraham series, that part of the Bible where they load the animals onto the ark and off the ark, there are actually two stories that are jammed together. Both of those stories literally tell us the animals go on 2 by 2. I actually bitched about that it keeps going. Every animal was moved onto the ark who could walk or crawl or slither across the ground. And then a few minutes later, it does the same thing. Every animal who slithered and walked across the ground got into the ark. So each book tells us twice, because it is indeed two different stories jammed together, that the animals got on the ark. It almost sounds like they got on there by themselves. But I'm just saying, as opposed to, can you imagine them going out there and collecting sperm and egg samples? How would that even be?
Well,
they hit test tubes.
If you can milk a bull, you got a friend for life. That's all I'm saying. I'm from Texas. I know these things.
but Noah liked to get drunk and be naked, so who knows?
He did. Well, there again, being naked is bad. Why is being naked bad? If it's bad, why did God want to see Adam and Eve naked all the time? Why is it that they were naked to begin with? Why is it that the eating the apple was the first thing they realized was it was naked? They didn't become woke. They just went, oh, we're naked. What is it about being naked? And then, so when we talk about Noah, we're talking about the pride of the pride. God chose to kill every freaking human on the planet, assuming this is a real tale, pardon me. He kills every freaking person on the planet, and he saves Noah because Noah is the pride. He is righteous with the God. And then as soon as it's over, the first thing he does after he sacrifices animals to God is create a winery. They're still living in tents, and he creates a winery. Maybe they always lived in tents, but they created a winery. That was the first thing he does. No art, no music, no nothing, no civilization. Creates a winery, gets drunk. Then his son Ham finds him naked in his own tent. Is that bad? Why is it bad to be naked in your own tent? He was naked and passed out in his own tent, and his son Ham comes in. Why is that bad? Then he gets mad at his son Ham and curses his grandson Canaan, who did nothing according to the story. According to the story, there's nothing mentioned about Canaan until you hear his name when he's cursed for Ham seeing his father naked. So Noah, the chosen of God, curses an innocent child to slavery and its descendants to slavery. And in fact, Canaan, Ham's descendants are so vile and so whatever. They'll go on to become the founders of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they're also the Canaanites, the same Canaanites that Moses, the descendant of Shem, the brother of Ham, Moses, so clearly cousins to the Canaanites, has to slaughter his way through the Canaanites to get to the promised land.
It's also what the slaveholders in the United States used as their justification for why it was okay to have black people as slaves, because they said they were the descendants of Ham.
Yep. And in my most recent video, I said in my Evil God Monster of Abraham series, it's really short because it's just a bunch of begats, and it tells about, the sons of Noah going on to be the fathers of these nations. But it's just really all it is a story to vilify the people that the author of the Bible didn't like. That author did not like the Canaanites, so he listed them as a descendant of one of the villains of the Bible. That's all. That's all it's about. There's nothing else there. There's no love. There's no peace. There's no culture. There's no mercy. Nothing. The whole book is just ugly. Bugs me. Fake story. Grumpy old dude has God has a history with white supremacists. And what you said really rings with him, Granny. He mentions here that that's the fake story a lot of white supremacists use as an excuse. And it kind of all comes back to what we were saying earlier. Whenever I was debating that Christian, it's okay to kill people who are not completely human. So who sets the bar as to what's a complete human? And that's where you start getting the murder, death, kill of entire peoples. Because they're not, yes, it goes a long way.
Well, who does? I would say science. And science says we're all one human race that originated in Africa. So,
yeah. Have you ever, what is it? There's kind of this thing. Whenever you look at pandas all look alike. When you look at tigers, they all look alike. When you look at wolves, they all look alike. Unless you go to a different breed of wolf, right? But they all look very much alike. They're all the same color, unless you go to a different breed. So are we different breeds?
No.
See?
We're not.
How does that work? Then explain the difference. Why don't we all look the same?
It's just different coloring. There's nothing to do with the breed. There's no breed of human. In fact, races, in a sense, is a social construct. It's not a scientific one. There's not, in a sense, a scientific classification for race. There's what we do is in like DNA, we do groupings of areas or types. But this is our putting that on. It's not an actual different human at all. We're 99.9% the same genetically. Humans are. And as far as looking, you're talking about the difference of melanin and stuff in our skin.
It's actually not. There's a lot more different than that. All the way from the difference between a black man and me is completely different. All the way down to our skeletons. They can tell which one of us was white and which one of us was black by our skeletons.
But
and I'm telling you,
that's what I'm saying.
White person, but to me that's wrong, because what's a white person? How many types of white are there? Just one type of white? And so everyone
agreed.
No, that's false.
No, I agree with you. I'm not actually.
Not the same as French, not the same as German, not the same as Russian. They all, as you would say, have different bone structure. They all have different diseases that are more prone towards a certain, like people in Russia.
So they're not all the same.
They're not. Well, what I'm telling you is they're actually all the same.
Right.
We're talking about
all humans. All humans are not the same as all gray wolves are the same.
I'm saying that there's different breeds of animals. There is not different breeds. If you want to talk about a different breed, Neanderthal was a different breed of human.
Right. Okay? No, I get you. Yeah, I get you. We're all actually on the same time. I'm just being a jerk. That's all. I'm just arguing. I don't believe those things. I was just being difficult.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm just saying that people have those opinions, and so they're wrong.
Right. You're right.
And it just like it would be like saying that everyone who has different eye color is a different race. I mean, it's
yeah. Where does it end?
Yeah, well, because we're looking at these little tiny minute things, and we're saying, oh, that must mean, and it doesn't have that kind of meaning. And so, even like if you said all black people, there's not a conglomerate of everyone who has dark skin. There's people that have dark skin in India. I mean, dark skin. There's people that have dark skin in other places.
I really think you were missing the point of what I was saying.
Right.
I believe, yeah. I could be wrong though, because there's a difference between the Indians from India and yes, they have dark skin.
Even in the Philippines,
they have dark skin. But you can look at a Filipino skeleton and you can tell the difference between a Filipino and an Indian.
But
based on their skeletal structure.
But that only is because we're looking at the mutations of the bone. That's not different. It's not a different.
I get that. Right. What point does it constitute being a different species?
Well, science tells you what the point is.
Ask Aaron Ra that.
There's a bunch of stuff that has to go on that we're not a different species.
Right. So I'm just not understanding the answer to the question though. Why don't we all look the same when brown wolves look all the same? Red foxes all look the same.
I don't think they all look the same to each other.
Again, I think you're missing the point. There are subtle differences, like Chinese people. They don't all look the same, but they do all look the same. They all have the certain kind of eyes, the certain kind of hair color. To each other, they look different. You know what I mean? But I'm saying that whenever you look at things like, well, that's actually a great example of using Oriental people or people of Asian descent, how they all look the same, much like wolves look the same, unless you go to a different breed of wolf.
But that's like saying all Spanish look the same or all Germans can look the same.
That's incorrect.
But it is, you're talking about aesthetics.
Right.
That has nothing to do with what's going on. Like the fact that some people can grow beards and some can't. Some people lose their hair and some do not. So the people that lose hair is a little factor, is not an actual conglomeration. Most men do, most women don't. I mean,
that's right.
It doesn't make us not the same, in a sense, category.
I get that. So, but if you had a group of wolves that were bare and naked and could not grow hair, they would not be gray wolves. They would be a different breed of wolves.
But you're not understanding how you break off the genetics.
Right.
Like I said,
but this is the same thing.
They're not currently existing. But we did have other, in a sense, types of humans. Like I said, Neanderthal, Denisovans, and maybe even the Homo erectus. Those are different, in a sense, types of human. They are human. In fact, like the more that we learn about Neanderthal, the more we really realize that most of it has to do with, the fact that they branched off. They left the human track and they went off. So you can tell that they broke off of us. Same with, they talk about breeds. They break off of the other one and become an entirely different thing. That has not ever happened to humans.
But a gray wolf can breed with a brown wolf. A gray wolf can breed
with us. They did. So did the Denisovans or Denisovans, and so did probably I think 2 or 3 other, or at least 2 other arcane. There was one in Africa. I know that they don't know what they have never found the bones, but they do know from DNA that there was another besides the Neanderthals that happened in Africa. An arcane human.
Excellent. To circle back, what started kind of all of this was about the differences created through the descendants of Shem and Ham and how they treated them differently. And they've lumped the people they didn't like into the group who descended from Ham and called them bad. Even though, of course, that's kind of what I got me started on that was how they're bad, who's this, and the split from the different, and they're different colors. Are they different people? If they're not a real person, can we kill them? How do we know that's kind of where I was going. I wasn't trying to be facetious.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, and on Ham too, I've never understood, because doesn't it say that you're not supposed to hurt him? That's only God. It's a punishment.
No.
But only God.
That was Cain.
Oh, Cain.
Yeah, Cain was told that. Remember,
you're right. Cain. Yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong.
And again, Cain murdered his brother. And this is something I think Godless Granny was talking. Was it Godless Granny talking about murder? Oh, it was you talking about murder getting less credit than a child disobeying. But Cain Cain murdered his brother. And what are the rewards from God in the Old Testament? The reward from God in the Old Testament is a long life. You don't go to heaven, you get a long life. You have many children who go on to have to become fathers of nations. These are the rewards from God from the Old Testament. Am I wrong? Anybody? Okay, so what happened to Cain? He had a mark put on his forehead so nobody would kill him. So he got a long life. He murdered his own brother, and he gets the reward of his long life. He has to move to another town, but then he has children who have sons and daughters. Then they go on to become fathers of nations. So Cain was freaking rewarded for the murder of Abel. That's how it reads. Remember we were talking about earlier, hashtag punished? And I was talking about hashtag punished. I was talking to Granny about this before the show. Hashtag punished.
Cain, he obviously wasn't put to death for it.
Yeah, he wasn't punished at all. He was given a long life, and he was able to go on and have children who became fathers of nations. And he was protected by God. So, yeah. Now, what happened to Eve? All she did was eat a piece of fruit. And yet all women have to suffer forever because of her slight indiscretion. So, yeah. So, forgive me. I wasn't actually trying to argue for the sake of racism. I'm absolutely not a racist. And grumpy old dude was even saying, wow, flashbacks for whenever he was. No, I wasn't trying to defend those points at all. I was trying to make a point about the differences justifying murder because of, and not how I would do it, but how other people do it. That's kind of where I was trying to go. So,
right.
Yeah. I am fully against the murder of gray wolves. Anyway, I guess we're about hour and a half. Do you want to keep going, or do you need to go? Or are you ready to shut up?
I really need to go. So
yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah, I think it's been good. It's been fun. We'll have to do it another time.
Thank you. Well, I kind of learned a lot. And again, for those of you who aren't subscribed to Godless Granny, go watch Godless Granny's video, especially the one she put out yesterday. I really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. And then go subscribe to Godless Granny and Damien and check out their channels. They've got some wonderful stuff. Damien and I are going to release another video before long about the second one in the thing. So about
the pillars at Göbekli Tepe. So that's really interesting.
Right. Well, Epileptic Skeptic is not really sure about my point. And to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on it too. In the Bible and in the debate I had with the Christian, they were using the Bible to determine what's a real human and what's not a real human. And I just extended that to colors as a notion to how these people justify their hate. That's what I was trying to do. If I failed and seemed like I was defending these positions, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to actually exemplify why they do what they do, but I screwed up. Anyway, so sorry about that, Epileptic. Sorry if y'all missed that. Obviously I messed something up. But thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for everybody in the chat. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for Sci-Fi Saturday. Have a great day.
Bye.